Hello everybody, John here, and today onto the garage I'm going to be trying out Cerakote ceramic trim coat on the very faded bumpers of my Fiat Ducato. Hi all, regulars to the channel will know that my Fiat Ducato was in brilliant condition when I bought it, despite it being 10 years old. The only thing that lets it down is these greyed out, faded bumpers, as is the way with all black plastics, if we're honest. And that's because, like on all vehicles, over time, with sunlight, with washing, with rain, with air rushing across it, the oils come out of these plastics which give it its colour, and it fades more and more into a dull grey and eventually a nasty white colour. Now you can dress them up quite easily and quite quickly by applying any oily film to them, and they'll look quite attractive for a few days. Some people spray on a bit of WD-40. You can literally use olive oil or anything else like that. It will work, it will look quite nice, but it's a sticky mess. It attracts all sorts of rubbish, and of course it will wash off. You can buy dedicated spray-on trim products, the silicone based things, the things that promise back to black, and they do a very similar job but better, in that they stay on the vehicle a little bit longer, a little bit UV resistant. But again, they're essentially just sitting on the surface. They don't set, and so they're very, very temporary. The other thing you can do is heat these things up. Use a heat gun very carefully, and you can get the existing oils that are still inside the plastic to come to the surface. And of all of these techniques, that's the one that gives the best results, as long as you're careful and don't melt your bumpers. But you are taking bumpers which are already down on the amount of oils in them and drawing more of that oil from within to the surface. So it will go again. You might get a few months out of it before it starts to fade back, and time after time doing that, you really do degrade the bumper. So I tried out a product probably 6 months ago now, which we're not going to go into today, but it was really good when I applied it. I was very impressed. The finish was fantastic. You can look back and find the video if you want. However, after probably less than a month, I was getting stone chips in its finish and it was flaking off. So it was very much on the surface. It hadn't really attached rather well, despite my best efforts to prepare the surface. And yeah, over touching it left a scabby looking finish. So I stripped all that off. Fortunately, I could get it all off using a jet wash repeatedly over many weeks, and some alcohol spray and cloths to get all the tiny bits off. It's now back to bare. So I'm going to be trying this as my next experiment. Cerakote ceramic coatings ceramic trim coat restoration kit. I've seen other people have decent results with this when they've done reviews on YouTube. I hope they're as honest as I am, because I will find out. It uses a degree of ceramic coating technology, whether it's the same as a ceramic coating on bodywork, I could not tell you. However, it does appear by all reviews that that coating is very strong and should last me a year, maybe even 2, depending on who you ask. Which is the sort of duration I want. I want to be able to do a job and leave it relatively done for a while, not be topping it up every few weeks. Another thing I've picked up from other reviews is lots of people are not going to like this because it does leave a wet look finish, as if the trim has just been sprayed with one of those silicone sprays or has been lacquered. And some people really don't like that. They want it to be the dull sort of satin finish, matte finish that they would expect from an original equipment bumper finish. I don't mind the wet look, because I think when the vehicle is trimmed with oils and silicons, I think they look great. So I think I'm going to be okay with this, but they are highly glossy. As with the previous product, following the instructions to the T and being really over the top with prep. So the van has not got any wax on it because I have jet washed it to death over the course of 3 weeks in order to get this stuff off. The bumpers have also been cleaned with alcohol at least 6 times, believe it or not. It has stood outside for a little while and been rained on, and it's got some soiling from birds and whatever on here. So what we're going to do now is give it a final wash. I'm going to hand wash the bumpers. I've got warm water in a bucket, and I saved the little bits of washing up liquid from in the house that you can never get out of the bottle, and I'm going to use washing up liquid to wash the bumpers. Now normally, you know, everybody's dad tells them never ever wash your car with washing up liquid. There's a good reason for that. It's a detergent that will strip the wax off. Now in this particular case, not only do we not mind, that's a positive. So Cerakote is actually an American company, so they use their term, wash with a dish soap such as Dawn, which to those in the UK doesn't mean anything. I've done the research, and washing up liquid such as Fairy Liquid, or the cheap Morrison's equivalent, is essentially the same thing. And then I've got a 0 ppm filter on one of my hose pipes, which removes all contaminants from water, and I'll rinse it in literally pure deionized water. Once that's done, I'll give it a good towel dry, get it as good as we can. Then I will use an airline to blow the areas around the joins in the panels and bits and pieces like that, because water does gather in those small gaps. It's literally sucked into them by a capillary attraction. And the Cerakote is apparently quite hydrophobic when wet, and it will not work properly if it comes into contact with water. And then I'll let the van dry in the rather nice sunshine today. You'll probably join me after a bit of fast forward when this is ready to start the coating process.
Had a few kids, bought a new house, promised you heaven, but it never did work out. Got a new job and moved uptown.
So we've got the perfect surface in which to work. If we look at the kit, then inside what you're actually getting is 8 pouches of this ceramic trim coat restoration kit. So they're wipes, cloths. Obviously they intend a kit to cover a good sized car. I doubt it'll cover my entire van, but this stuff isn't cheap, so rather than buy 2 boxes to be sure, I'm going to just see how I get on with one, and then we'll buy a second when I know it's A, good, and B, I need it. Got my bill here, and say that after delivery and UK VAT, our tax, this came to £34.68 for one package. So, yeah, it's not super extravagant, but neither is it a super cheap solution, so I am hoping for great things. The pack also contains some rubber gloves, because you do not want to get this stuff on your hands. And we have our instructions, which also include a QR code which you can scan and go to their instructional video. And the instructions say, wash and dry surface thoroughly using a non-wax containing detergent such as Blue Dawn dish soap. Important, must be applied to a completely dry surface. Ideal environmental conditions are between 60F and 75F. It's in the UK, so we're C, but we're at about 17 degrees C at the moment. Open and close the doors, trunk and hood several times to free any trapped water. Yep, done that. Roll down windows to avoid any contact with glass. We're not going to be troubled by that. If the product comes into contact with paint or glass, remove immediately with a dry clean cloth. Wear the provided gloves. Open one pack and wipe trim surface in an overlapping pass to ensure full coverage. Rotate the wipe as needed, ensuring you use all the surfaces of the wipe. Move to a new pack when the wipe becomes dry or soiled. After application, allow a minimum of 1 hour before exposure to moisture or driving. So, I hope I've got decent weather. I can only hope, because UK. Just building up myself a bit of cloth in case of incidents. I think I'll try this one relatively small panel first, just to get my eye in before I move on to the grand expanse of the bumper. First of all, I'd say the perforations between the various pouches are not brilliant, so I tried to open one and ended up nicking the other, so I'd probably slice those with scissors to separate them before you get going if I were you. But now this one is, because that's where I nicked the corner. Now this one open, we will use this one. It's got a strong odour. Trying to place it. It's like a slightly sweeter, more pleasant, if that's the right word, version of acetone. Okay, here we go. So, kind of recommend starting at an edge and giving it a wipe to give yourself a nice clean edge. I think I'm going to follow this all the way around. You could obviously mask up your vehicle, but have you seen the size of my van? So I'll be doing it by eye, being careful and wiping off anything that goes over. Okay, I've got an edge. Come back down the back edge. I'm putting no effort in whatsoever. This coats very well. They don't look very wet, but it's obviously a solvent, so it is coming out of the wipe really easily. Now, as I don't know whether I'll call them brush marks, I know it's not a brush, but you know what I mean, if the brush marks will disappear or even out, I'm just being very careful not to leave any brush marks or if I do, make sure they're at least travelling in an easy to understand direction. It's quite interesting that marks on the cloth despite the bumper being 100% clean, so it's either picking up microscopic bits and pieces or that's an effect of applying this. I'm not sure. Obviously things come out differently on camera, so I can't see what you're seeing, but from where I'm looking, that looks smart. Yeah, I think you just got to be a little careful about leaving witness marks, you know, wipe marks. I'm not sure if they will remain when it's dried. Let's move you around. You can see it's got a seriously wet look at the moment, but of course it is wet. So what I'm going to do now is I think I'll move on to completing this wheel arch and take it from there.
All this time I waited for a season where everything felt right. All the different phases and the reasons to make it all worthwhile. My best kept secret is I never loved you quite enough.
Cloth is starting to dry now. I'm going to go a little further, but I think I've been as slow and steady as anybody could be, and I am wondering if it's affected by evaporating off the cloth rather than purely the amount you're applying to the vehicle, i.e. this cloth would last 5 minutes rather than cover a particular number of square inches, square meters, etc. So it might be worth working rather quicker than I am. Yeah, I think it's a little too dry now, but as a minimum I'm going to just try and get some on all of this panel, so the next wipe really doesn't have to do very much. Just using the dried off cloth on some of the invisible to most places, the bits that are actually on the undersides, just to get maximum value from it, so to speak. Now I'm getting more of an ammonia smell. Yeah, that's more or less gone now. So, one cloth, one front wheel arch on a Fiat Ducato, Peugeot, Boxer, Citroen Relay sized vehicle. I'm going to try and work a little quicker on this panel, just to see if I'm right. The product flashing off the cloth, just evaporating as much as you are using it.
There in the moment, in my white dress, in all the Driving on a freeway with no exit signs, losing control and speeding faster than light. All this time I waited for a season where everything felt.
This one's more or less dried out, and I'm quite pleased, half a front bumper. So I'm going to go back to unseen bits, if you like. So just working the areas that nobody can stare at with the dryer cloth. Very pleased so far. Just trying to see anything but I've missed. Also, with the drying cloth, I decided to coat one of these two door handles. I'm pretty sure you can tell which one. They both looked identical in terms of fade. They are a slightly different plastic to the bumpers, and they came up blacker than the bumpers did. Very pleasing. But it's a nice contrast to look at. Well folks, I've now finished for the day because I'm not going to risk doing any more. It's got to stay dry for a couple of hours so it doesn't disturb it. So yeah, I've finished the front of the van and pretty happy. It's gone on pretty even, very easy to do. In all fairness, I have taken about an hour and a half, 2 hours about it, but that's me. I like doing things slowly and carefully. Yes, I would have preferred it to have dropped a shade darker. You can see the contrast, I hope, between my brand new wing mirrors and the bumpers, but they were very faded, and this stuff's not tinted. So if you want a really dark finish, you're going to have to use one of the tinted products. I used one previously and wasn't particularly impressed. All I'm after from this really is a nice finish that lasts. I don't want to be spraying silicone spray all over this every few days, every week. There are a few areas that might be a little thin, or there might be brush marks if you stare at it long enough, and I might give it another wipe over after I've let it set up and seen what the finish is like after a few days. And I only used 4 of the 10, I think I might have said 8 in that pack, 10 pouches that I had. So actually, despite this being a big vehicle with a lot of grey cladding, I may just about get away with it. These are very long, deceiving. The bumpers at the back are very tall, but there's not, well, there's more than I think. I don't know. It'll be close, but it'll probably get very close to covering the whole van. On a car, I don't care what your car is, you're going to have more than enough and plenty to top up and play with another day. I saved one of the little cloths that I'd been applying it with after it had gone a touch dry, just put it to one side. Don't know why, I just chucked it on the side rather than chucking it in the bin. And here it is, and it's gone quite stiff, which is good, because that tells me that this stuff is air drying, but it does set and set up. It's not just snake oil I'm wiping on and it's going to evaporate and leave some mild film behind. Yeah, this stuff has set on that cloth, which again makes me think that you've got to work reasonably quickly once you open that pouch. I think it flashes off, so you may have it dry up before you run out on the individual wipe, if you know what I mean. So don't be distracted when you sit out and open a pouch. Get on, carry on, don't do anything but that until it's all gone. I'll do another quick video after it's been on the road and done a few miles with that. Yeah, if you've got experience of this stuff, or similar, or better, then drop us a comment in the description below. Really interested to know how you're getting on. And yeah, if you like videos like this, please subscribe. It costs you nothing and it helps me loads. So yeah, see you all soon, guys.